Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Some battles are fought in silence, where the loudest weapon is restraint and the deadliest wounds leave no scars. Every room has one, the woman who doesn't chase attention, doesn't play politics, and somehow still runs the room without uttering a word. She's not loud, but she's lethal, in ways most people will never understand. She's the Sigma female, an anomaly, a force, a quiet hurricane in human form. Here's a fact that might rattle your bones. According to multiple psychological studies, the most self-sufficient personality types are also the most misunderstood and emotionally burdened, and Sigma females top that list. Not because they're fragile, but because they absorb what others can't even see coming. While the world obsesses over loud leaders and curated confidence, Sigma females are waging unseen wars, navigating emotional minefields, unspoken power dynamics, and expectations no one dares admit exist. And here's the kicker: they do it without asking for applause or backup. This isn't your feel-good, girl boss Pinterest board. This is the unfiltered anatomy of the unseen battlefield Sigma females carry every day, without medals, without sympathy, and usually with a really good espresso in hand, because someone has to stay awake while the rest are sleeping on reality. Number 1. They hide their burnout. So well, even they don't recognize it. They've become so good at holding it together that even they don't realize when they're coming undone. Sigma females are the type who show up no matter what. Tired? They'll still deliver. Drained? They'll still listen to your problems. Overwhelmed? You'll never see it on their face. They've mastered the art of emotional suppression, not because they want to suffer in silence, but because they've had to. They've been conditioned to be the stable one, the rock, the quiet fixer. Somewhere along the way, they internalized the idea that admitting burnout equals weakness. So instead of collapsing, they adapt. Instead of resting, they optimize. Instead of breaking down, they rearrange the chaos into something functional. But the cost? Their own needs vanish under the surface. Burnout for a Sigma female doesn't look like snapping or crying in public. It looks like emotional flatlining, disinterest in things they once loved, a slow withdrawal from people. Their humor goes dry, their spark dims, but they'll still say, "I'm fine," and mean it, because they don't even know they're not. They've been running on fumes for so long that exhaustion feels like baseline, and the world, it claps for them, calls them strong, reliable, grounded. No one thinks to ask how much weight they're carrying because they carry it with such composure. But there's a danger in being that composed for too long. You start ignoring your own warning signs. That's the trap. They become experts at surviving on empty, but they forget that survival isn't the same as living. They're so used to being the one others lean on that they've forgotten how to lean themselves. And here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't notice until she crashes, and even then it'll probably ask her to get back up quicker than she should. Because when you make it look easy for so long, no one believes you when you say, "I can't." Number 2, they wage wars you'll never see, but you'll thank them for the peace. They fight battles no one sees. Sigma females live with a constant storm beneath the surface, one they've trained themselves to manage in silence. They don't rant, they don't whine, they don't broadcast their pain. And because of that, no one realizes the mental and emotional weight they carry. People just assume they're fine, always fine. The truth is, they're not. They're just disciplined. Every day they make choices that most people don't even realize are choices. They walk into a room full of tension and choose to be the anchor. They get insulted in subtle, backhanded ways and choose silence over ego. They're constantly absorbing emotional chaos from others and filtering it like it's second nature. While everyone else reacts, they calculate. They choose peace over pettiness, grace over gossip, logic over emotional outbursts. But it's not because they're saints, it's because they know that responding would mean lowering themselves into the same pit they spend their lives climbing out of. There are wars happening inside them that they'll never verbalize, resentments they bury, burnouts they don't reveal, disappointments they carry alone, because they know the world isn't ready to hear the truth without labeling them difficult. Their strength isn't in how loud they can be, it's in how much they can hold without dropping a single thing. And the wild part? The people around them benefit the most from that hidden strength. Others feel safer, calmer, even inspired, yet rarely know why. That's the paradox. Sigma females give people the illusion of peace, but that peace comes from internal wars they've already fought and won. Quietly. They don't want medals, they're not waiting for applause. But don't mistake their silence for ease. If the world seems a little less chaotic around them, it's because they're holding the storm back with both hands, and doing it without letting you see them sweat. Number 3. They're allergic to shallow praise and addicted to depth. Shallow compliments don't land on Sigma females, they bounce right off. Telling them they look nice or did great without any substance behind it is like offering a gourmet chef instant noodles and calling it a gift. They don't want generic approval. They want depth, insight, and honesty. Something real they can respect. That's the thing about them. They're not hungry for praise. They're hungry for connection. Not surface-level fluff, but raw, unfiltered truth. Conversations where people drop the mask and say what they're really thinking. Praise that comes with precision, not flattery. You changed how I see this, or your words cut through the noise. That they'll remember. That they'll respect. But empty admiration? They find it insulting, even irritating, and when it comes to relationships, whether friendship, family, or romance, they crave intensity over comfort. They'd rather have one uncomfortable, soul-punching conversation than a lifetime of polite silence. They don't care if it's awkward. They care if it's authentic. And that scares a lot of people off. Because most people prefer safety over self-exposure. Most people prefer being liked over being known. Not Sigma females. They're addicted to the real stuff, even if it alienates them. Even if it costs them their seat at the table. If the table's full of shallow validation and surface talk, they'll leave it without blinking. They're not in it to impress. They're in it to connect, or walk. And here's what really sets them apart. They'd rather be misunderstood for their depth than loved for a performance. They'll take solitude over shallow praise any day, because they know that applause fades, but self-respect doesn't. You can keep your gold stars. They're chasing something bigger. The rare, brutal clarity that comes from truth, growth, and the kind of depth most people avoid their entire lives. Number 4. They are the silent archaeologists of human behavior. Sigma females don't just listen to what you say, they dissect it. They pick up on your tone, your pauses, the words you didn't use. They watch your micro-expressions, your timing, your contradictions. Not because they're trying to figure you out in some manipulative way, but because their minds are naturally wired to scan for truth beneath the surface. While others take things at face value, Sigma females quietly start excavating. Your behavior becomes a map, and they read it like scholars studying ancient scripts. They notice when your story doesn't align with your energy. They catch the way your eyes shift when you talk about someone you're over. They remember that weird detail you dropped 3 months ago and silently connect it to the breakdown you're pretending not to have now. This isn't surface-level intuition, it's forensic-level observation. They piece together your patterns, your triggers, your unspoken pain, and they often know what's really going on with you before you do. But they don't always say it. That's the key. They don't weaponize what they see. They rarely even mention it. They just know. And sometimes that knowing is a burden, because it means they walk through life constantly reading layers of truth that other people aren't even aware they're leaking. It can be isolating, seeing too much, knowing too much. It's hard to unsee when you know someone is faking their smile or lying to themselves or spiraling silently while keeping up appearances, and yet they stay quiet, they observe, they learn, they store the data. People around them often feel strangely seen, but can't figure out why. That's the Sigma effect. They're uncovering the emotional ruins people didn't even know they buried. They may never say it out loud, but trust this. If a Sigma female is in the room, she's not just hearing you, she's archiving you. Number 5. They don't just read the room, they read the subtext you didn't know you wrote. Sigma females are the kind of people you can't lie to. Not because they'll call you out, but because they'll know you lied before you even finish the sentence. They don't just read the room. They read between the lines, beneath the words, around the tone. They pick up on the pause before your answer, the slight shift in your body language, the energy drop when a certain name is mentioned. While others are laughing at the joke, they're analyzing why you told it. It's not magic, it's psychological pattern recognition, finely tuned over years of observing people without ever needing the spotlight. They track emotional inconsistencies like a surgeon tracks vitals. What you say matters, but to them what you didn't say matters more. They notice the compliment that had a blade tucked inside. They hear the enthusiasm that sounded a little too rehearsed. They catch the way your voice changes when you're lying to yourself, and they file it away with surgical precision. The unsettling part? They won't always confront you. Sigma females don't feel the need to prove they're right. They just know, and that's enough. But the moment you become inconsistent, disloyal, or manipulative, understand this. You've already been decoded. You're just playing out your role in a script they already read. That's why people feel exposed around them without knowing why. It's not because Sigma females are judgmental, it's because they see the subtext you didn't even realize you were leaking, the cracks in your mask, the emotional fingerprints left behind in your phrasing. They can sense when you're performing, pretending, or projecting, and once they see the truth, they don't forget it. You won't always know when they caught you, but trust that they did. They don't need a confrontation. Your inconsistency will handle that part on its own. Number 6. They train themselves to be immune to praise because they know it's often a control tactic. Sigma females have learned the hard way that praise isn't always pure. Sometimes it's wrapped in subtle expectations, hidden demands, or quiet manipulation. Compliments can come with invisible strings. "You're so reliable" really means "don't ever say no." "You're so calm" becomes "don't make me uncomfortable by speaking up." Over time, they start to see praise not as affirmation, but as an attempt to mold them into someone more convenient. So they build immunity. They stop chasing validation and start watching for the agenda behind it. They know that too much applause often comes with a price, your authenticity. The more people praise who they appear to be, the more pressure there is to maintain the mask. Sigma females refuse to be trapped in a version of themselves that exists only to satisfy someone else's comfort. Even though they might crave recognition deep down, they'd rather starve for it than trade their autonomy for a round of applause. They don't want to be admired for being agreeable, obedient, or digestible. They want to be understood, but not at the cost of being boxed in. That's why they become indifferent to praise, even if part of them still longs for it. They learn to separate genuine appreciation from strategic flattery. They don't melt under compliments, they analyze them. What's the motive? What's the timing? What behavior is being rewarded and why? It might look like they're ungrateful or unaffected, but the truth is they're just protecting themselves. Praise is nice, but control disguised as kindness? That's a trap. And Sigma females have been burned by that enough times to know the world will compliment you right into a prison if you let it. So they nod, smile, and keep moving. Not because the praise didn't land, but because they've trained themselves to resist becoming someone else's version of perfect. Number 7. They exist in a constant duality, hyper-aware yet misunderstood. Sigma females live in a constant state of contradiction. They're hyper-aware, reading signals, sensing shifts, noticing truths others miss entirely, but that same level of perception often leaves them feeling isolated. While everyone else is focused on the surface, they're already 5 layers deep, quietly watching a whole different game unfold. They see the cracks in people's stories, the fear behind bravado, the envy behind forced smiles. And yet, when they try to share what they see, they're often met with blank stares, defensiveness, or even ridicule. So they stop explaining. Awareness becomes silence. They realize that not everyone wants to see what they see. Most people prefer the comfort of illusions, and Sigma females are a direct threat to that. Their clarity is inconvenient. Their insight disrupts the flow. Their questions hit too close to the truth. So they get labeled. Too intense, too serious, too much. It's not that they are too much. It's that most people operate on such a shallow wavelength. They can't process depth without feeling threatened by it. Their intelligence isn't loud or showy. It's surgical, strategic, and almost eerie in how accurate it is. But instead of being valued for it, they're often excluded. Intelligence becomes exile. People admire them from a distance, but rarely invite them in, because real connection would require honesty, and Sigma females don't let anyone fake it for long. So they live in this strange limbo, knowing too much but speaking too little, feeling everything deeply yet being seen as detached, craving connection but refusing to dilute themselves just to be accepted. They carry this duality like armor, one part razor-sharp awareness, one part quiet loneliness. It's not easy, but they've accepted it. Because they'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by people who only see the edited version of reality. And that's what makes them so rare. They don't need to be understood to keep seeing. They don't need to be accepted to keep knowing. They just are, silently, fully, and unapologetically. Number 8. They are forced to translate emotional intelligence into emotional labor. Sigma females don't just sense emotions, they absorb them. They walk into a room and instantly know who's anxious, who's resentful, who's pretending to be okay. It's like they have an emotional radar that never turns off. But instead of being appreciated for this rare emotional intelligence, they're often used for it. People start leaning on them hard. Because why go to therapy when you can emotionally unload on someone who just gets it, right? This is where the trap begins. Because they understand people so well, they get pulled into roles they never asked for. The listener, the fixer, the emotional sponge. Friends, partners, even colleagues start coming to them with every crisis, every meltdown, every unresolved childhood issue, expecting the Sigma female to somehow carry it all with grace. And at first, she does. Because she can. Because she cares. But over time, it becomes one-sided. Everyone's being held except her. What most people don't realize is that emotional intelligence isn't infinite. Just because someone can handle your pain doesn't mean they should have to. But Sigma females rarely get that courtesy. People assume they're fine because they seem composed, strong, capable. So they keep dumping. Keep expecting her to be the stable one, the wise one, the rock, even when she's quietly unraveling. She might start resenting how often she's expected to be available, but she won't say it, because voicing that resentment would make her the villain in everyone's story. So she bottles it up, smiles, and listens, while silently burning out. This forced emotional labor is exhausting because it's invisible. There's no thank you, no paycheck, no break. Just this constant draining expectation to show up emotionally for others even when she's completely empty herself. It's the hidden tax of being emotionally intelligent in a world that confuses compassion with obligation. And Sigma females pay it over and over, until they finally realize, just because you can carry someone else's emotions doesn't mean you should die under their weight. Number 9. They are constantly asked to explain themselves to people who don't even understand the questions. Sigma females live in a world that constantly demands they dumb down their brilliance. Their minds operate on layers of complexity that most people don't even know exist, yet they're expected to translate all of that into simple, bite-sized pieces that anyone can swallow without choking. When they try to share a deep insight, a nuanced perspective, or a complicated truth, they're met with impatience or confusion. Instead of curiosity, they get pushback. Can you just make it simple, or why are you overthinking it? This pressure to simplify isn't just annoying, it's exhausting and alienating. It's like speaking a language only they understand, then being told to translate it into nursery rhymes for the crowd. But the worst part is that it's not just about clarity, it's about people's unwillingness to engage with depth. They want quick answers, catchy slogans, or neat conclusions that fit their worldview. Anything that challenges their comfort zone is met with defensiveness or dismissal. So Sigma females either stay silent or keep explaining themselves over and over, watering down their ideas until they lose their meaning. This endless demand to conform to shallow thinking drains their energy and dulls their edges. It feels like being trapped in a room full of people asking questions they don't actually want answered. Because true understanding would require them to change. They're constantly forced to choose. Simplify to be heard or remain complex and be ignored. Neither option feels good. but they endure it because they know their truth is worth more than a soundbite. And though they may rarely get the recognition they deserve, they carry on, shaping ideas beneath the surface, waiting for the rare few who are ready to listen without demanding they shrink themselves first. Number 10. They are simultaneously too much and not enough. Sigma females exist in a space where they never quite fit the mold, and the world's never quite sure what to do with that. They're too intense for those who prefer surface-level chit-chat and small talk. Their thoughts run deep, their emotions run wild beneath a calm exterior, and their presence demands more than just passing attention. Yet, because they don't conform to easy social scripts, casual groups often leave them out, or misunderstand their silence as disinterest. They're too independent for people who crave control or need constant reassurance. Their self-reliance makes others uncomfortable because it threatens fragile egos that expect compliance or emotional handholding. Sigma females don't bend or break to soothe insecurity, and that makes them both admirable and alien. They hold values and principles so firmly that fake relationships, whether friendships or romantic ties, just don't stick. They won't waste energy on shallow connections or performative alliances. But this high standard often leaves them isolated, as many people prefer compromise over authenticity. They're too quiet for the loud chaos that dominates social scenes, opting for observation and reflection over noisy participation. But in quieter moments, their absence is noticed, creating a strange paradox. They're invisible and yet unforgettable. And yet, despite all this, they're not enough for many social circles that demand conformity, easy likability, or emotional availability on their terms. They exist on the edge of acceptance, too complex to be fully embraced by most, too nuanced to be easily understood. This paradox that they are simultaneously too much and not enough is the core of their solitude and their power. They don't fit in because they refuse to dilute themselves to fit a world that fears depth and strength in one package. They're a walking contradiction, and in that contradiction lies their rare, uncompromising truth. Number 11. They don't have role models. They are the blueprint. Sigma females don't grow up with clear examples of how to navigate the world on their terms. Society rarely hands them role models who embody their unique blend of independence, depth, and quiet strength. Instead, they're often left to figure things out alone without a guidebook, mentor, or clear path. This absence forces them into a solitary kind of innovation, crafting their own rules, values, and ways of being as they go. They build their identity not by following footsteps, but by blazing trails. Every decision, every boundary set, every challenge overcome is part of a blueprint they design themselves. It's a process marked by trial and error, intense self-reflection, and sometimes painful lessons learned in isolation. They learn resilience not from watching others, but from surviving situations where no one else would have expected them to stand strong. Because there's no precedent for their way of existing, they can't lean on inherited wisdom or societal expectations. Instead, they become architects of their own existence, deciding what success looks like, how to engage with others, and how to protect their inner world without losing themselves. This self-made code often feels like a secret language only they understand, a map drawn in invisible ink. Being the blueprint means carrying the weight of responsibility for their own path without a safety net. But it also means they hold a power that's rare. The power to redefine what it means to be a woman, a leader, a thinker, and a soul in a world that tries to fit everyone into boxes. Sigma females don't just follow paths, they create them. And that creation is their quiet revolution, even if no one else sees it happening. Number 12. They build emotional armor. That's mistaken for arrogance. Sigma females develop emotional armor out of necessity, not ego. It's a shield forged from countless moments of vulnerability met with misunderstanding, rejection, or exploitation. This armor isn't about showing off strength or superiority. It's about survival. They've learned that opening up too easily invites damage, so they protect their inner world fiercely, often making themselves appear distant or unapproachable. People who don't understand this mistake their guarded demeanor for arrogance or coldness. They see the quiet confidence, the refusal to overshare, and jump to conclusions, assuming it's pride or a desire to intimidate. But the truth is far more nuanced. Behind that composed exterior is a person who's been hurt, who's chosen restraint over rash emotional exposure, and who guards her feelings like precious, fragile treasure. This armor allows Sigma females to navigate a world that frequently demands emotional labor without offering safety in return. It keeps them from being worn down by shallow connections, manipulative relationships, or toxic expectations. But because the armor hides so much, others rarely see the depth beneath it. The empathy, the pain, the fierce loyalty reserved only for the few who break through. They don't bleed on command because they've learned that vulnerability isn't a performance or a weapon. It's something sacred. And until someone earns the right, the armor stays firmly in place. What outsiders label as arrogance is often the most honest expression of self-preservation a Sigma female can offer. It's not about being better than others. It's about refusing to be lesser than herself. Sigma females are the quiet architects of resilience in a world that often misunderstands depth and strength. They navigate unseen battles with a fierce grace, carrying weight most never notice, and doing so without fanfare or demand for recognition. Their existence challenges the status quo, rewriting what it means to lead, to feel, and to survive on one's own terms. In their silence lies a profound power, one that reshapes the very fabric of connection and authenticity around them. To truly understand a Sigma female is to appreciate the extraordinary complexity beneath the calm, a relentless spirit that chooses truth over comfort, solitude over pretense, and integrity over easy acceptance. They may walk paths few dare to tread, but in doing so they illuminate the way for others brave enough to follow. Their story isn't just a narrative. It's a revolution quietly unfolding, one unseen step at a time. If this deep dive into the world of Sigma females resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on content that challenges the ordinary. Like what you've heard? Show some love with a thumbs up. Got thoughts or experiences to share? Drop a comment below. Your voice matters here. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Together we're building a community that values truth, depth, and unapologetic authenticity. Thank you for being part of this journey.